Hello neighbor, this is Curt with eTrailer, and today we're going to take a look at the Yakima OverHaul Ladder Rack. We're going to see how it fits and how it installs on our 2025 Chevy Silverado 2500. Whether you're using it for recreation or for work, a ladder rack is an excellent way to carry those loads that might be just a bit too long for your truck bed. So for instance, if you have, a lot of boards, lumber, and things like that, or frankly, ladders, things that extend far beyond your tailgate if you were to put them in your truck bed, using this ladder rack is going to allow you to extend those out over your cab and therefore carry some of those longer loads. And the great thing about the OverHaul is the versatility. It's very adjustable. Not only are you free to adjust how close and how far apart your bars are because these aren't permanently in your stake pockets, you could also adjust how high or how low they're going to be as well, just depending on what you want to use it for. Load capacity on these bars will be on-road, you'll have a 500-pound load capacity. Off-road, you'll have a 300-pound load capacity. And to help us secure those loads, each of our towers is going to have a loop here on the inside to help as a tie down. And we also have anchor points on each end of our bars. I mentioned before how adjustable these are. They are held on by 2 clamps per foot, and we're not really restricted by going in through the stake pockets. We can move the bars closer and further apart. The only thing that really kind of restricts us as far as our clamp placement are just some obstacles underneath the rail here that are holding the plastic cap down over the rail. Other than that though, it's really maneuverable. And as far as our height adjustment, they're controlled through these 2 bolts here, and there is a scale here to help us out. We can go anywhere from, at the lowest point, 19 inches above our bed rail, all the way up to 30 inches above our bed rail, which is where we have it now. We've got our Yakima OverHaul set up today at the widest possible crossbar spread. So if I'm going to measure that from the center of one bar to the center of the other, that is going to give us a crossbar spread of 59 inches. Now, I had already mentioned that we've got it adjusted at its highest height, so that is 30 inches up above our bed rail. But if we're going to double check and see just how much room we have to the bed itself, to the bottom of our bar, we're sitting right at 49 inches. So we've still got a lot of room underneath our bars to be able to load up our truck bed. Now, as far as how high this ends up being above our cab when we've got it at max height, I'm going to have to eye this out a little bit, but from what I can tell, this should come out to about, I would say, 6 to 6.5 inches at the highest point of the cab over there. At this point back here, it was just over 7 inches. As far as the kinds of things that we can put on these bars as far as accessories go, this is going to work with our clamp mounted accessories, and we do have a weather strip here going across our T-slot, which we can access by peeling back that weather strip, and our end caps actually leave a space that we can slide it in. So we can use T-slot accessories like load stops without actually removing our end caps. Installation of this ladder rack is actually pretty straightforward, so stick around and I'm going to show you right now how we got our Yakima OverHaul on our Silverado 2500. We're going to start our installation by installing our foot pads like we have here, and we already have installed on our passenger side. Each foot pad is going to be installed using 2 of the J-clamps, and they're going to be underneath here and bolted down through the top. So as far as the different kind of parts and hardware and stuff that we're going to need is each foot pad, like I said, we got our foot pad here, we've got our J-clamps with the bolts and blocks, and we have this rather large Allen key that is provided to us from Yakima, as well as 2 other tools that are going to be necessary as well. Now, depending on which of the foot pads you're using, it's going to take a different tool to tighten it down and clamp it on. This tool is going to be for this style of pad here. This tool is going to be used on this style. It's got this kind of little knob here like this. This is the side that's going to take our lock and key. So it's important when you set this up that you don't put the lock and key versions on the same bar. Not much point to that. You want one of these on each bar. Each of our foot pads has these long ovular slots for our bolts, and it is important to be able to maneuver these back and forth because underneath our rail here, there are these little nibs that come through that are holding our cap on top of our bed rail. So we're gonna have to be able to set these up in a way that we're gonna be avoiding those. So our front bar is already set up as far forward as it will allow. I am going to set up our back bar as far back as it will allow. And it's also important that these pads, whichever bar we're using, are directly across from the one on the passenger side or the driver's side. So this needs to match up exactly with the one across from it so that our bar will go on correctly. But once we have this on here, we're going to go ahead and take one of our J-clamps. I'm going to get it unbolted. Taking our block and just dropping it into the slot up here. We've got our bolt and we've got our J-clamp. And again, I'm going to set this up in a way that it is all the way back here to the rear. So I'm avoiding that little nib that's right here where my finger is. And I'm going to set it up toward the tailgate away from that. After that, I'm going to run the bolt through and I'm just going to start getting it clamped down. I'm not going to tighten it completely. I want to be able to slide this back and forth to make sure that I get it directly across from the one that I have on the passenger side. So as I get that in there, just hand tightening it a little bit, but again, leaving it a little bit maneuverable. Once I get that done, I'm going to go ahead and repeat that process up here in the front. So we're just going to drop our block in first. I'm going to maneuver this. And we're going to drop that in as well. I'm going to do the same thing. Not going to tighten it down completely. I want to be able to slide this back and forth a little bit in order to make sure that I'm directly across. And the way that I can make sure that I'm directly across from the other one is I could just take a measurement from here to the end of the tailgate or whatever point I want to measure and make sure it matches up on the other side. Once I've got this position where I need it, I'm going to take that large Allen key and I'm going to go ahead and get it tightened down. While I'm doing it, I am going to put pressure on it just to make sure that it hugs the rail completely all the way around and we don't have any gaps there. Once that's in place, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with my front bolt. Prep our bar. So the way that we're going to do that is we're going to take the smaller of the two tools that are provided by Yakima, which would be this one right here. There's a little bolt right here that we're going to need to undo to remove our end cap. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And maneuver that up out of there. Take that off of there. And then we're going to take these two plates. We're just going to slide them in this T-slot underneath like so. Once those are on there, I'm going to come back and I'm going to replace my end cap. So next I'm going to grab one of my towers and I'm going to set it as much as I can over that plate that's in there. I'm going to take one of my bolts and the lock washer and I'm going to go ahead and just drop it in. Hopefully catch the bolt hole of the plate underneath it. Once I do that, I'm going to take the larger of these two, the security tool. You'll know that because it's got a hollow in there. And we're just going to lightly just get the thread starting into that plate because I want to be able to slide this back and forth and maneuver it. So once this bolt is threaded into the plate's going to be in place for our second bolt. Now our second bolt's going to take a lock washer and a flat washer. We're just going to drop that in and get that lightly threaded as well. This one I don't really have to use the tool on just because it reaches really easy. And it is a lot easier to thread it in if you make sure that the top of your bar is flush with the tower. We're going to repeat that process on the other side. It's also important to note while we're talking about it that the feet of these need to be pointed inward. So on our front bar, we've got them pointed to the tailgate. On our rear bar, we're going to have them facing toward the cab. We're going to go ahead and set these on these landing pads. So I'm just going to lift up here, and remember I left the towers maneuverable. So there's a little lip on the outside edge that I'm going to make sure that I get it under over here. And then I'm going to feed it along, and we're going to do the same thing over here on the driver's side. The next thing I want to do is double check my overhang and make sure it's even on both sides. So just grab your measuring tape and go ahead and get that done. Just double check each side. And remember, we left the bar maneuverable on purpose so that we can make any of those adjustments that we need to. Double check again. And at this point, once we have it where we want it, we can go ahead and take that security tool for these bolts, and we're going to go ahead and tighten those down so that we can keep our bar in place. Clamp in the feet of our towers, and we just need to push up on this door here. There's a lip on our foot right here that we're going to make sure that we're going over. And then for this one, if you remember, the one that doesn't take the lock, we're going to be using our larger security tool to get that tightened down. So I'm going to go ahead and hand tighten it real quick and then finish it off with the tool. And then on the side that is taking our lock and key, we're going to use the smaller of the two tools that are provided, and we're going to use that to get this end tightened down. Once that end is tightened down, if you want to, you could go ahead and take your lock and key and go ahead and put that on. If you have any questions or experiences, please share those in the comments below. We would love to share them with other neighbors just like you in order to help them make the best decision for themselves. Once again, this is Curt with eTrailer. Thanks for stopping by.